Hello everyone, Sound Author again, and today we are looking at Equinox for Yuhi Bazille. There's some confusion about how the title of this synth is pronounced. It is Bazille, as in a giant mutant bat that terrorizes the streets of Tokyo. It is a German word that means bacterium. So yes, it's not Bazille or Bazille. It is Bazille. So, this library is a bit peculiar, as the synth itself is a bit peculiar. It is sequence heavy, but there are plenty of pads and atmospheres and plucks. But there are no bass patches, even though there are plenty of bass lines, and there are no leads. So I'm sorry for that. I know that bass and leads are very important for a lot of people, but there just aren't traditional bread and butter bass kinds of patches or ripping lead sounds. They're just not here. Okay, this is an experimental library, and it is kind of perky and whimsical, and there's dark sounds, there's some happy sounds, there's some minor stuff, there's generative patches. It's out there. This is an interesting library, and I'm just gonna shut up and start going through the patches. So let's start out with the atmospheres. Actually kind of like this one up high. That's the mod wheel. Kind of sounds like a jackhammer. And the aftertouch. Okay, very atonal. A lot of these atmospheres are atonal. They're just a place. Some of them are musical, though. This one. Some of these mod wheel and aftertouch assignments are a little bit difficult to list everything that I did, and so sometimes I'll just write something abstract there. But some of these atmospheres are things that you just would pepper in here and there. This is kind of ideal for a horror-scape. Kind of reminded me of the atmospheres I made in Undertow for Zebra, which were some of them were kind of scary. Horror-scapes are important, guys. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. Aftertouch will summon the Kraken. It's just this ominous horn. Okay. On to the next patch. This one's pretty. Mod wheel. Aftertouch. The aftertouch kind of takes those filters on the brink of self-resonation and just kind of pushes them a little bit over the edge, just a little bit. I do a lot of patches with filter ping, or filters that are just right at the edge of self-resonation, and when you push them just over the edge, just a tiny little bit, you get a lot of really cool sounds. This one actually can play chords with it. It's polyphonic. I tried to make these patches especially velocity sensitive. So you'll notice that the velocity sensitivity is up a little higher than I usually have it. One of my composer friends actually stressed the importance of that. And some of my old patches aren't sensitive enough. And so I've made a point to really make these things more sensitive. So they are. This is another pretty chord sound. I think it's a minor 13 chord. Really like what happened there with the filter ping. Some really nice twinkly sounds. I think this one's polyphonic as well. Moving right along. It's another scary one. Texture. That's aftertouch. Aftertouch, like, will give you these bursts of noise. So that one's, of course, is very liquidy and very dark, and for when you need a little bit of texture. This one's also polyphonic. Very pretty. Bazille can do some amazing pads, guys. Like really, really pretty stuff. Another scary one. Aftertouch. Oh, yeah. And that's why I called this library Equinox, because there's some really dark sounds and there's some really happy, uplifting, ethereal sounds, and it's kind of like equal parts light and dark. So this one is odd, but it was inspired by a musical sculpture from Harry Bertoia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Very interesting kinds of sounds. This guy makes these really awesome sculptures out of steel rods, and they sound amazing. I actually did some harmonic analysis to create this patch. A little unusual, but it's nice, right? Okay, here's another unusual one. That mod wheel, gotta be careful with it. Okay. Brink is also very dark. I believe this is polyphonic. Aftertouch. Okay. This one is grouchy, but my mod wheel assignments are a little touchy because I understand that you don't want your mod wheel to be, too effective, that you want it to be useful. But at the same time, I kind of like the whole, idea that it's like a Ferrari. You could max it out to 250 miles per hour if you wanted to, but you're probably not going to. But it's there. The power's under the hood if you need it, So sometimes my mod wheel assignments are like, you could really push it if you wanted to. So it's there. So be leery, just a delicate touch. You don't have to go too far. It's another kind of horrorscape, sort of, kinda. Mod wheel. I'm just showing you the menu, but as you can see, I go to work in my patches, and these are not superfluous patches like these. I don't just arbitrarily patch things through and be like, oh, what's that do? There's a reason why this is the way that it is, okay? And it's why these modular patches take a while to make, because you've got to have a plan. Okay, you've got to have a plan. Sometimes your plan doesn't work, but you've got to have one anyway. Moving right along. A little bit of mod wheel and aftertouch in there. This is just with it without. Some of those atmospheres could have been pads down here, but I already had so many pads that some of them just kind of migrated over to the atmosphere section. Anyways, on to the bass lines. These say BS. I intended that for bass sequence, but I'm actually going to change these to bass lines. These are bass lines. Okay, as I said, there are no bass patches, but there are bass lines. Okay, they're bass sequences. All right, so here we go. That was aftertouch. There's some surprises in there. So with aftertouch, it's kind of... Right. So yeah. That's a little aggressive. So is this one. Aftertouch introduces these really cool resonant little melodies. Okay, so a lot of these patches have little generative elements in there, like these generative patches. That's not so true with this. Like with this could have been a generative patch, but what's in there, there's like a scale in there. And I guess it is. I guess this is random, but it's not at the forefront of the patch. And if it were, it probably would have made it into the generative patches. But anyways, let's look at these beautiful patches while we go through them. Okay. I thought this is a very standard issue, kind of. A little aftertouch, a little resonance, if you want it. It's in there. It's a very standard issue sound that you hear in film and games all the time. So, kind of like this one. Works. As you can see, I often use the mod sequencer for weird things at audio rate. You can go nuts in this synth. It's amazing. Oh, this one. This one, if you open the mod wheel a little bit first before you hit a note, you can open that filter up before you hit the note. You can get that. You can get the thunder. Okay. All right. I find this one actually sounds kind of cool up high as well. It's also good as a bass, so that's why it's there in the bass line section. Okay. This one, I find you can't go too low with this riser. Here it is. And I'll just keep going. Okay, that sounds really good, but when you get down a little bit too low, it gets a little bit squelchy as that low stuff starts to rise. You hear that? I mean, some people might like that growly sound, but I find if you go, you don't want to go too low with this patch. Okay, and also this is one of like 3 patches that don't have mod wheel or aftertouch. As you can see, it gets complicated in here, and you don't always have, you run out of options sometimes, and I tried a few different things, and there's like 3 patches in this library that don't have mod wheel or aftertouch, and I know that's really sad, but on occasion it happens, and just life has to go on. Okay, moving right along. I like this one. Aftertouch gives you some surprises, some noisy little surprises. Aftertouch. So that really is a full-fledged sequence. It's not a bass patch really, but it's in the bass line section. Really like what aftertouch does here. Yeah. Love that gritty sound. Grainy. That's the mod wheel. Okay. Inspired by Diving Piggies by Cristobal Tapia de Vir. Hopefully I pronounced that right. That's a great track for a show that I can't remember the name of because I've just woken up and had coffee. So. Okay, and that's the bass lines. Moving right along to the generative patches. These generative patches are generative because they involve an element of chance. Usually there is some kind of scale either in the mod sequencer or in the mod mappers or something like that. And it's doing something, it's thinking. The patch is kind of making the music in accordance with some things I've set up. It's generative. You know what generative means, right? Okay, so these patches are kind of quirky and perky and fun. So here we go. Little mod wheel. Okay. There's a lot of that in here. This one, don't go too low on this emergency parachute one. I recommend above C3. Little noise for the mod wheel. Okay. Flip-flops. This is one of those happy ones. That's mod wheel. was kind of an assignment that I added later on. I had to go back over some of these patches and figure out what mod wheel and aftertouch would do. And that's aftertouch. Okay, so some of these generative patches are quirky. Okay, not stuff you ordinarily hear. And that's the nature of Bazille. It's fully modular. You can do stuff like that. You can go nuts. And some of these patches are nuts. Okay? Okay? Fun. Mod wheel really exemplifies that hiccup sound. And also, that was a mistake at first. The release of the note gives you like this hiccup kind of thing, and I was gonna change it. I was gonna fix it, and then I was like, wait a minute, I like it. It's kind of cool. So it does that when you release the note. Okay, the whole library is not like this. Okay, these are just the generative patches are quirky and weird. Wonderfully weird, as Urs says. A lot of fun filter pingy kind of percussive rhythms in this library. Okay. This one is polyphonic. Okay. Good times. And this one, don't go down too low on this one, too. You want to stay somewhere in here. Okay, and that's like a minor scale. Okay, these are all... Actually, I don't know if those are scale notes. This might actually... Oh, yeah, I'm using the... Yeah, and you see the mod sequencer is cherry picking notes of, believe, a minor pentatonic. A lot of these generative patches are like a major pentatonic or a minor pentatonic, something like that. I like this one. You got to be careful with the mod wheel on this one. As a matter of fact, the aftertouch chokes what the mod wheel is doing. Okay. So you can throttle what the mod wheel is doing with the aftertouch. All right. Moving right along. Pots and pans. The mod wheel actually takes that, I believe it's a major pentatonic, and when you increase the mod wheel, things get atonal. Right, so you go from musical to not musical. This one's pretty cool. Okay. Can't take too much time on these patches or we'll be here all day. So believe that's a major scale. Interesting, right? Some peculiar sounds in the generative section. This is one of like the 3 patches that doesn't have mod wheel or aftertouch. Just too much going on here to assign mod wheel or aftertouch. It's crazy. But it has kind of a nice improvisational feel to it that was kind of a nice surprise. And this is the simplest, most basic example of a generative patch. It was actually an init patch, and I just liked the sound of it, so I threw it in there. So aftertouch and mod wheel kind of opens it up. I believe it's a major scale. Might be wrong. Can't remember. So that's... Oh, there's one more. There's a few patches in here that have like a whole 8-bar musical piece that just... some people might think of like there's a whole song in there. I know, look, it was very hard to resist the temptation to make patches like this. There's a couple of patches like this in this library that are really complex and are doing their own thing. And I got a little carried away on a couple of them. But I tried to tone it down as I was making this library, not make too many patches like this, but they're in there. There are a few of those. Look what I can program patches. Sorry, my bad. Okay, on to the pads. That's the generative stuff. And these pads... Okay. Some of these pads are really warm and kind of analog sounding. And some of them are unabashedly digital and ice cold. This is one of those digital sounds. Mod wheel. Some of those pads you got vibrato with aftertouch. Aftertouch is really important, guys. If you don't have aftertouch on your MIDI controller, you really need to get a MIDI controller with aftertouch. It's been around for a while. It's in a lot of patches. It's really important. You guys should get used to it. And, you know, poly aftertouch is, no, you just channel aftertouch. It's fine. Just, yeah. This one, you need a mod wheel, like I was just saying. Like, if you're playing this pad without a mod wheel, it's kind of boring. But to really bring this pad to life, you need the mod wheel. Okay? Stuff like that. Oh, I like this one. The mod wheel actually goes through a lag generator and feeds the fractalize inputs, and that's going to give you this hard sync sound, but because it's going through a lag generator, it's going to ramp up very slowly, and it sounds really cool. I'll play a chord. Oh, this is my favorite pad in the whole library. I just love it. A little bit of vibrato with the aftertouch. Mod wheel. Okay, let's talk about CPU consumption for a bit. You should probably always have the multi-core button switched on, and I do believe that that's global, but if things get too out of hand, you can always turn the HQ button off. There will be a noticeable difference in the sound quality, but you don't always need it. I understand that Bazille is kind of a resource hog, and as you could see, I was playing like 5 or 6 notes, and my CPU is at like 50%. Yeah, it gets up there. But I don't just make patches for composers. I also make patches for other sound designers. And that might not be something that's normally done, but I try to make patches for everybody. And I really like to push a synth to see what it can do. And so yeah, sometimes my patches are a little CPU heavy. I acknowledge that. It's a thing. It's a thing, okay? Just, take note of that. Not all of these patches are going to punch your CPU in the gut, but some of these pads will, okay? But not this one. This one's very simple, standard issue, super saw pad. Okay, nothing to write home about. It's just when I go to work in a synth and I start working on pads, you've got to have a couple of saw pads in there, okay? It's part of life. All right. Some overtones there with the mod wheel. Okay. And this one is kind of cool. You should probably, if you want to really get that sweep sound, you should probably open your mod wheel a bit before you hit the note. So just a little bit. Okay, every once in a while you need those sweeping sounds. This one's kind of like Cool Breeze, but I'm using the mod sequencer as basically like 4 separate LFOs to kind of pitch modulate each oscillator apart ever so slightly to give it sort of a vintage kind of feel. Wheel. Okay. This one, the mod wheel has a little surprise. That almost sounds kind of like a little rattlesnake. Okay, flanged saws is another very basic super saw kind of pad. It's just very flanged, hence the title. Mod wheel. Okay, I just liked the way that these things sounded in Bazille. So yeah, like I said, I made a couple of saw pads in here. They're very bread and buttery, okay, but they're in there for you to use, okay. This one's very subtle, and the aftertouch, I ran out of LFOs here, so I said that I wanted aftertouch to do some tremolo, or it's not tremolo, sorry, vibrato. But I had to use a ramp generator in order to do it. Well, the only problem with that is that the ramp is going to be unipolar, so so it sounds really weird. It's kind of a creepy sounding kind of a vibrato. It's not for everybody, but I thought it was kind of interesting, so I left it in there. Here comes that creepy vibrato. I know it's unusual. It's unusual, but I kind of like it. Okay. So this one has a lot of power. Going on in that patch. Oh, I like this one. This one sounds really nice. So like I said, some of those patches are kind of analog-y, and some of the pads are quite digital. The mod wheel actually changes the attack of this pad, and the mod wheel will actually make this pad warmer. And while it gets warmer, the attack gets longer and slower and softer. So then that happens. So aftertouch, of course, makes some twinkly things happen. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, this is another saw kind of thing, but a bit different. Next one. This one's a little weird. Try to get some like pitch wandering things. There's some drift happening. So it's a little strange. This one, I believe this is mono, but I put it in the pad section anyway. Yeah. The aftertouch, there's a surprise in there. Okay. Unusual. I said some of these patches are a bit out there. Okay, so if you're scoring something like fantasy, or maybe you're doing something with a game, maybe maybe these are some patches you'd like to look at. I like this one. The mod wheel does something insane. Watch the mod sequencer. Retro phase. I just want to say that Bazille is an unabashedly digital synth. It's an FM/phase distortion synth with analog style filters. But it's a very digital synth. And some of these pads, I just kind of wanted to see how, I just wanted to feign some kind of vintage analog character to see how close that I could get to maybe something that you get out of Diva or something. And, I just did it because I wanted to, see how wide and warm can I get. And it made some interesting sounding kinds of pads. I like this one. This one is definitely out there in the fantasy world. There's your mod wheel. This is my second favorite pad in the whole library. This is very Blade Runner-y, okay? I just had to, sorry. Okay, yeah, that's very Blade Runner-y. And this one is actually in the patch information and experimented with using the modulation sequencer as an oscillator, resulting in per voice foldback distortion. Yeah, I was taking an oscilloscope to this patch, and I was modulating the mod sequencer with audio rate with some different levels here, and I actually got something that resembled a sine wave going through some foldback distortion. So it's almost kind of like, in theory anyway, like you would have per voice foldback distortion on a sine wave, and it sounds really, really nice. Mod wheel. Just distant carnage. And another great pad. I just want to stress that the pitch wheel on this Yoivox pad will change. There's two voices here. Well, there's two tones here, and it'll change between the root and the fifth. So with the mod wheel all the way down, you get this. Or with the pitch wheel all the way down, you get this. And with the pitch wheel all the way up, you get this. And in the middle, where it usually is, you get the two together. And that sounds really nice. Okay, and that's a nice pad, but if you go down low and you turn that pitch wheel all the way down, then use the mod wheel, you get this. All right, and you can do that in the middle of playing. I just think it's a really cool sound. So those are the pads. Moving on to the plucks. These are some nice plucks, if I say so myself. Now, do you hear those overtones? On a lot of these plucks, I use the mod sequencer as a way to actually tune the filter, highly resonant filter, on the cusp of self-resonation, and do it randomly, so you get these inharmonic atonal overtones that have anything to do with the fundamental, and it gives the thing a lot of character. Hear it shifting around? And so when you're playing something musical, okay, it has a nice, almost kind of a gamelan territory. I've got a patch like that. That's not a gamelan. Gamelan? I'm mispronouncing that. I think it's gamelan. Anyways. Okay. Some nice vintage kind of attitude there. But there's a lot of DX7 kinds of FM pads or plucks here. Okay, some really pretty sounds like that. And there's two glass bell patches. The first one sounds like this. Sounds like this. It's a little bit warmer. Sorry, I didn't adjust my microphone boom well, so I'm actually reaching over my microphone boom to play things. I should have thought this out better. Okay. This does that thing with the mod sequencer I was talking about. Oh, no, it doesn't. Never mind. But this one, there's another one. There, this is the one I was talking about. Is it gamelan? I don't know. I've been for years I've been saying gamelan, but I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it. So anyways, I was making it in the low ranges for this. Okay, but you can also go up high, and there's some really nice vibrato with the mod wheel. Okay? So yeah, you get those overtones with that sequencer. So, yes, I like this one a lot. Yes, that's very pretty. Yes. This one layers really nicely with another sequence patch called Insomnia. I'm not going to layer it here. Got too much going on, but you can play chords. the way I've modulated the filters, it lives kind of in that mid-low range, because if you go too high, because of the way that they're modulated to extreme amounts, if you go too high, it's a little too much. It's a little too much. Okay, so don't go too high with that one. So, swirly. I like fizzy, swirly, chorused kinds of sounds, like sounds you'd get out of like a Juno 6 or something. It's just my bag. It's just, I like that sound. So yeah, some more swirly Plucks. This one lives down low. It's almost a bass. I probably could have made it a bass if I wanted to, but I thought it had a plucky kind of behavior, so I put it with the Plucks. And this one is, of course, okay. We've all heard that one before, but I just did it because I could. Okay. Moving on to the sequencers. Man, I love Bazille for sequences. It is a sequence monster. This synth is just really calling out for you to make sequences with it. So yeah, this library is a bit sequence heavy, but I couldn't help it. Bazille just wants me to make sequences with it. It's awesome. Okay, so yeah. So there's a few drum beat kinds of things here in the sequencer that are kind of, a couple of them, some of them are tuned and some of them are not. Some of them are just static and just stay that way no matter where you are on the keyboard. And I did that so you could layer some of these drummy kinds of rhythms with other patches. And yeah, it would just kind of stay put while you play chords and stuff. Which is why a lot of the mono patches are have low note priority. So you can do that. So you can, whatever you're playing, whatever chord you're playing, the mono patch is like, oh, I'm supposed to stay down on the bottom. Okay, so Backlash. This one's pretty cool. Some resonance on the aftertouch. If you want some resonance, that's what aftertouch does. But yeah, it's kind of a bass and a drum patch at the same time. It's kind of cool. This one, the mod wheel does some weird things with this relative coarse FM mode where it's actually turning the oscillator down so low that it actually turns off, but it's doing that through some crazy modulation, so it almost sounds like record scratches. That's one of those weird, crazy patches. Okay. This one. Okay. This almost made it to the generative section because it just has that weird, quirky generative character, but it's not really that generative at all, so I left it in the sequences. Okay. Aftertouch. Aftertouch messes with resonance. A lot of the times that's what Aftertouch is doing. It's doing something with resonance. Oh, this is like the best sequence in the whole library. Very cinematic. Yeah, it's really good. I'm really proud of that patch. Really came through. This one's nice too. Okay. This is another one of those patches that it's another one of those patches where I kind of went nuts. Something weird with delay in this one. The delay values are not exact. They're kind of splashy. Lots of delay in Bazille. And one thing I want to point out is even though we have this wonderful spring reverb, and which is awesome and sounds like an actual spring tank, I love it. But we could really use a modern reverb like Hive's reverb because sometimes you don't want that splashy sound. Sometimes you want a very modern, diffuse kind of reverb. And we don't have that. So on a lot of these pads and a lot of these atmospheres and stuff, I'm using basically a ping pong delay to feign reverb. So this library it's kind of delay-y. I don't know what the right word is. So anyways, moving right along to drip hop. Oh yeah. This one is tuned. Unusual, right? I know. It's unusual. There's some unusual sounds in this library. Oh, I like this one. I actually like the sound of it. It's kind of got a fizzy quality that I like. I like fizziness. Oh yeah, this is that patch that layers really well with that rave ramp pluck that I was talking about. I'll show you that after I'm done. I like making patches that are it's a bass line or something like that, but it's also kind of a drum rhythm at the same time because those two things, they kind of go together really well, and I like to make patches like that. Oh yeah. Mod wheel. Okay, and as I say in the patch info, this is inspired by Ayin Zayev. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a factory preset called Ghetto Blaster, and I was inspired by that patch and decided to make something kind of like that. And so this is kind of my own spin on that patch, but I decided to go ahead and give him the credit, or at least inspired this patch. But it's my own kind of spin on that factory patch. It's in the perks, in the perk loops. So yeah, like it. Okay, mech stomp. Okay, it's a little repetitive, but the mod wheel kind of changes the behavior. Okay, so you can go back and forth. All right, so that's kind of something cool that I would probably pepper in here and there. Minor Street is another one of those flashy sequences. So, but with some of these sequences, especially with this one, you don't have to use that whole 8-bar or however long it is. You can just use the first part if you want. You know, like my friend Richard Sven did some demo work, and he used this patch in the demo, and he just used the first. He just used the first part. He didn't use the whole thing, because if you hold the note down, there's a whole thing. Okay, so there's a couple of patches, like I said, that I kind of went nuts. This is one of those. Try not to get too carried away, but on occasion, you know, when you have something as powerful as Bazille, you just can't help myself. So yeah, the mod wheel here is kind of like a gate almost. It almost sounds like it's gating reverb, but it's not. But it resulted. That was the result, which was pleasant. This one, watch out. This one is loud. This one just goes right after you. Got a random LFO kind of cherry picking some values for some notes to get those note bits. But yeah, it's tuned. So if you go up too high with some of these patches, you end up with, you don't want that. That's not where this patch lives. Okay, it's down low. Okay, very useful. Oh, I like this one. This almost is a bass line, but I decided to leave it in the sequences. Okay, very cool. And this one. Save over that. That scope was out of control. All right. Okay. All right. And that patch is so sugary sweet that I almost disincluded it from the library, but I just left it in there because maybe somebody might like something. It's really happy. I don't know. I just left it in there. If you want to use it, there it is. Okay. This is a touchy sequence. That mod wheel is. Okay, that is a strange sequence, I know. So anyways, I just want to show you what you can do when you. I make a lot of these patches they're intended to be layered together, and so let's just use that rave ramp that I was talking about. Okay, and in Ableton, you can do this in FL, you can do this in almost any DAW. You can layer these things together, and you can right-click, and you can group. It only takes a couple of seconds. Then just get out of here, and then right-click, and then duplicate, and then go to the second instance, and let's see here, go to a different patch, and I really like it with Insomnia, and there you go. And so you got those two patches together that I was talking about, and I really like these two patches. Okay? So, yeah, there's a lot of patches in there that go with other patches. But there it is, folks. There is every patch in Bazille Equinox. Hope you enjoyed the video. The library will be out on November 1st. Happy holidays.